Well, to give us some analysis, we're now joined via Zoom by political analyst, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. Prof, thanks very much indeed for joining us. I wonder if the fisticuffs and the chaos we saw might be metaphorical of the state of the party itself.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Ndora, and good evening to your viewers as well. No, honestly speaking, what we see happening today, or what we saw happening, is in fact a culmination of a process which started in 2009 when the party was established. The party was built on shaky ground, so there was no chance that it was going to survive for a very long time. And coincidentally, Mr. Ndoro, I still have an article which I was asked to write by a Ugandan-based a journal, whereby they were asking me if I agreed with my other colleagues who were saying that the emergence of COPE would mark the end of the ANC. I had a counter view. I argued that COPE will die a natural death. And I based this on the grounds that the reason why COPE was formed was because of disgruntlement by some members of the ANC who were not happy about the manner in which former President Thabo Mbeki was ousted in September 2008. Then my argument was that you cannot build a party based on anger, because anger has a short lifespan. The problem is, once anger subsides, what is going to be the glue that will hold you together? And then what we have seen happening right now, I suspend you, you suspend me also in return. I mean, what kind of chaos is that? So which means then that the party indeed is in deep trouble, and I don't think it will survive unless it takes urgent action sooner than later.
Is there anything that can save the party? It's been losing numbers over time. We saw Terra Likota eating his hat, literally, because he had to admit that he'd lost ground. What is the party, what has it got to compel voters to keep with them?
No, there is nothing, Mr. Ndore. Let us be honest. There is absolutely nothing. Like I said, there was no policy position that COPE had which distinguished it from the ANC. I always make the point that the only political party I still respect to this day is the PAC. The PAC is the only party that left the ANC on a clear policy issue. In 1959, the ANC was saying that the liberation struggle was everyone who was against the apartheid regime at the time. And then PAC, on the other hand, or those who formed the PAC, on the other hand, said that no, the struggle is for black people and black people only. So that was a clear policy issue. But with COPE, when COPE was formed, you look at the COPE's manifesto from the time it was formed in 2009 to date, and then put it or juxtapose it with that of the ANC, and see if you can find any difference between the two. So if that is the case, you still have the ANC with its own problems, but it is still surviving because opposition parties are failing to use the opportunity to occupy the space that is being vacated by the ANC, wittingly or unwittingly so. Then you have COPE, whose agenda at the moment is not clear. Now the question is, if you and I, as the electorate, want to vote for COPE, the question is, what are we hoping to achieve? In other words, what is COPE offering which no other party is offering at the moment? I don't see any reason. And the second point, of course, is that for a party to survive, it must have a significant number of youth. If you don't have youngsters in the party, the future of that party is already doomed, because you need youngsters who are going to be groomed. When older people leave the stage, like the likes of Mosua Lekota, when he exits the stage, there should be people who are going to take the baton and move on. Where are the youngsters? I don't see any. So I don't think that COPE has a future, honestly speaking.
All right, 2 seats in Parliament. I just, as you say, it looks difficult to see how they can build upon that. What do you think the fight is all about then?
It's about power. Honestly, it's about power. Because even in 2013, when Mosua Lekota and Bazema Shilowa were fighting, they were fighting over power. Of course, power comes with money, controlling money, which is basically the reason why all political parties, in fact, have the problems that they have. It's not as if they are thinking for you and I, Mr. Ndoro. They are thinking about enriching themselves. and filling their own pockets. But when they canvass, they'll tell you that we are fighting for the people, we are fighting for the people. It's all lies. And that is what Ndaweni Mahlangu once said when he was Premier of Mpumalanga, that it's normal for politicians to lie. He was right. But unfortunately, in his position as Premier, he was seen to have been out of line. As a matter of fact, he was called to order. His comrades told him that you can't say those things, while in fact he was telling the truth, because they will say one thing and do the other. And then what is happening in COPE is that of the few seats that they have, the majority of them, those who are still remaining in COPE, want to occupy those seats. And that is the reason why, for instance, they want Mosua Lekota out so that someone else can take that position. It's not as if they're thinking for the electorate, but they are thinking about the money that they are going to get once they occupy those positions. It's all about power and all about money and nothing else.
I'm trying to understand the bad blood that's developed now between Mr. Madisha and Mr. Lekota. Is it just power? Could there be other factors at play here?
There could be certain things that you and I don't know, because, you know, these politicians engage in many activities, some of which are not in the public eye. So we wouldn't know for sure what other causal factors are. But the fact that the president and the deputy president don't see eye to eye, that is a recipe for disaster. Because under normal circumstances, if the president is incapacitated for one reason or the other, then the deputy will keep the flame burning. Now, in this case, if, hypothetically speaking, let's say Mosua Lekota were to be hospitalized for one reason or the other, are we going to say in confidence that Willie Madisha would basically take the baton and lead the party forward? I don't think so, because he would be wanting to basically find a space for himself, and then will be trying to do things his own way. And then when Mosua Lekota comes back, then there will be a fight. And then I don't see Willie Madisha wanting to vacate the position when Mosua Lekota comes back. So once we have two leaders fighting, senior leaders fighting, already you must then start preparing for a memorial service for that party. And this is where we find ourselves right now in as far as COPE is concerned. I hear them saying that they are going to regroup, they are going to contest the 2024 election. That is what politicians do. So there is nothing wrong with them saying that, but the reality points to a different direction altogether.
Mr. Lekota may legally have the cards in his hand in terms of the party leadership, but does he have, do you think, the following of the masses of the party?
That is where the problem is, Mr. Ndoro. I always say politics is a numbers game. You can speak the truth, but if you don't have the numbers, we'll lose an election anyway. So in this case, Mosua Lekota is absolutely right. The constitution of the party is what guides the party, all political parties, including COPE. So in any eventuality that you have to take a decision about a leader of the party, you don't have to guess. You just have to go to the constitution and look at how that particular leader or someone who occupies that position is to be removed from that position, and then you follow the process to the letter, and then eventually you arrive at a conclusion. In this case, there is no evidence that there was a Congress meeting wherein the issue of Mosua Lekota was discussed. There is no evidence that there were minutes that were produced from that meeting, and there is no evidence that there was a collective decision taken that Mosua Lekota should vacate office. So from that standpoint, then, Mosua Lekota is absolutely right that constitutionally he remains the president of COPE, but then, of course, without the numbers, he will still lose, correct as he is, he will still lose in the event that they have to vote either to retain him or to remove him. And as he correctly pointed out, you serve one term, you come for the second term if you're lucky, and then that's it. But obviously, you can leave even before the end of your first term. There is nothing preventing you from doing that, which is why other parties at the moment are even thinking of removing their leaders who are serving one term. A case in point being the current president of the ANC. There are people who are already saying that, no, we have done your bit, can you please exit the stage? Of course, they will have to put emotions aside, just like I'm saying with COPE. They have to put emotions aside, look at what the Constitution says, follow it to the letter, so that in the event that the issue goes to court, then you are not found wanting to have violated your own constitution, in which case then you would be embarrassed.
Professor Mngomezulu, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much indeed. It looks like your 2008 prediction perhaps may come to fruition finally at the next election. Thanks for your analysis. All right.
Thank you.
That's Professor Bheki Mngomezulu speaking to us about the travails of the Congress of the People. They got 30 seats in Parliament in 2009, and it's just been downhill ever since. They're down to 2, and it could be the end, given the scenes that we've seen. That's what people are speculating in anyway.